YouTube has been using Warhammer flying bases wrong. In fact, they're not using them at all. Think about it. You save your hard-earned cash and spent it on some brilliant but very expensive miniatures, and then you get these little pieces of clear plastic that your favourite hobbyists absolutely hate, and then they just tell you to throw them away.
That's not good enough!
That's your money that you're throwing away, and quite frankly, no one can afford to do that. Stick with me, and in 5 steps, I'll show you just how to make the most out of these incredible pieces of plastic. This is Cursed Crusader Arts. The flying bases from Warhammer have been under fire since the day of their conception, mostly due to their fragility. They constantly break at the top or the bottom of the beam, and it is a valid point to dislike them, but throwing them away seems rather foolish. This is a hobby full of people saving and collecting all kinds of things from old wires and bottle caps to the very real, actual dirt on the floor outside. So why throw away this plastic when we can reuse it? When I first started Warhammer around 2009, I remember flying bases had a simple, vertical and transparent stick that stuck into the underside of a Necron destroyer or the boot of an Orc Stormboy's smelly foot. The miniature would often become unbalanced due to the weight of it being suspended in the air for the laws of physics to make it fall to its certain doom. This certain doom I speak of is a plastic stick snapping in one place or another due to its brittle nature. And since then, many people have resorted to using a brass or stainless steel rod and then paint it black. Since coming back to the hobby a few months ago, I have found that the same issue is still prevalent today, making us all fear the dreaded flying base and resort to new methods of supporting our skybound warriors. But this time, the shape is different. I am intrigued by the shape. The curve of the plastic gives me visions of speed or a sudden transference of energy. And now it's taller, physically lifting our miniatures higher into the air to literally look down on their foes. Let's use it. Before we start slapping pieces of plastic together in the hopes that it will stick like the pasta to your wall, we need to design what our flying base will look like. This could take the form of many different things, but today I'm going to be designing mine as a chaos-infused amalgamation of flesh and bone, much like a chaos spawn that is reaching out to grab an evading Seraphim squad member. For this, I will take inspiration from Gravelord Nito from Dark Souls, the Grasp of Darkness card from Magic the Gathering, and the Gel from Bloodborne. Combining these concepts will enable us to envision what our flying base is going to transform into. Okay, now this is the fun bit. It's time to finally put our plan into action. After tactically acquiring some spare parts from everyone that isn't me, I am able to begin building this insult to nature. I begin by breaking the stand and using pins to glue it back together in a steeper curve than before, creating a kind of looming or hunched look to it. This is where our ability to use these pieces is important. This acts as an armature, like we see with sculptors. This will provide the support and stability for the whole piece. I experimented with using aluminium foil to bulk out the base, but I found that it was not necessary in this particular case. However, I have a lot of ill-gotten bits left, so if you want to see what happens when things really get out of hand, subscribe and leave a comment below so I know that this is something that interests you. I started to add on layers of Das clay. This is an air drying clay, full of fibres in it to help it stay strong. Typically, we would use green stuff, milliput, or a combination of the two, as it is much more flexible and easier to manipulate on this scale. As I added the clay, I wedged in whatever pieces I felt would fit. I made sure all of the bones and grasping parts were going in the same direction to really give the feeling that this chaos-infused sludge was lunging out for its prey. With the base turned miniature, I covered it in a layer of PVA glue. This is so that the liquid from the paint does not seep into the clay and ruin any details that I haven't put into it. If you used milliput and green stuff, you won't need to do this. With a unifying base coat of Abaddon Black, I covered all of the flesh parts in Hormigant Purple, which is an old paint that you can substitute with Demonette Hide. I added varying amounts of Corax White to change the tone and add more layers of colour to the flesh, making the raised areas lighter. I don't want this to be too bright, so I use washes of Leviathan Purple and Drakenhof Nightshade to pull it all back, finishing it with an inking of Abaddon Black mixed with Lamian Medium. The bones were painted in a similar way to how I did them for my Morgan Rao videos, which you can watch by clicking the link above. I then picked out any details I wanted to be noticed, such as the shoulder pad, metal claws and spike, and any tubes I wanted flowing with blood. For something like this, there is no need to follow a rigid paint scheme, so just have some fun with it. And look at that! You did it! You took what is likely the most loathed piece of plastic in the history of forever and turned it into something you can be happy with. This is a piece that will catch the eye due to its unconventional silhouette, raw kit bashing nature, and is now its own character. You can make a whole story about it absorbing and assimilating whatever it touches. You could just leave it here, using this as a Chaos Spawn proxy, or even as some kind of demented objective marker. In my case, it is one half of a small diorama,